Hi, I'm Serena Appiah from ThriftDiving.com, and in this video, I'm going to share with you how to make a DIY craft apron with some of my favorite arrow fastener tools. Let's jump right into it. For this project, you'll need 2-inch webbing for the waistband, some fabric. I'm using 2 different fabrics here, the arrow fastener revolving hole punch. We're also going to use the arrow fastener eyelet kit. You'll need some scissors or rotary blade and a belt buckle. You won't need much fabric for this project, probably about 1/4 yard to about 1/2 yard. You'll measure from hip to hip so you know how wide it will be. I made my measurements and then used this striped fabric as a pattern and laid it on top of my fabric, making sure that I added in 1-inch seam allowances for each side and for the top and bottom. It's always better to cut a little big than to cut too small. This DIY apron will have a nice structured waistband, and you can get creative here. You can choose any fabric you want. I cut it the entire width of the fabric and made it about 6-7 inches thick. Pinned it together with right sides together, and using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, I sewed it together. And when you open it up, it creates this nice thick waistband where you'll be able to insert your webbing. Next up, it's time to make the pockets. You can cut the fabric whatever size you want for the front of the apron. I also wanted to cover the top of the fabric of the pocket. So I took this piece of fabric, folded it in 1/2 inch, and then folded it again on top of itself and then pressed it out. And then applying this to the top of the pocket will just give it that nice finished look. You can use fabric glue, but you can also stitch it in place. I did a nice top stitch after it was glued in place, and I think it finishes off the pocket very nicely. Now you can decide where you want to place your pockets. I didn't want mine too high or too low, so 2.5 inches was perfect from the waistband. I folded the sides under 1/2 inch and then pinned them into place, followed by a little bit of heat from the iron. You want that edge to be nice and crisp. We will be putting 1 to 2 inches of top stitching in place in order to secure it to the apron, so make sure that it's nice and crisp before you go to the sewing machine. And because we placed that bias tape over top of the pocket, it could be a little difficult to sew through that. So just be very careful with your machine. Make sure that you don't force it to go through quickly. I did add 2 rows of top stitching. One was just to secure it, and the other one was to kind of give it a decorative look. And just make sure that you go slowly so you don't have crooked stitches. Okay, so the next part is that we need to fold under the sides of the apron about 1/2 inch, and we'll fold them in again another 1/2 inch. Once you do that, you can create additional pockets. We'll do them the same exact way. Add the bias tape at the top, fold the sides under 1/2 inch, the bottom 1/2 inch, and then put it onto the apron and secure it the exact same way that you did the last pocket. Next up, we need to create the belt loop for the waistband. So first, we're going to start with creating the belt loop. We're going to cut about 5 inches of webbing and secure it together with either a stapler, like the arrow fastener plier stapler, glue, or you can even hand stitch it. Insert the long piece of webbing into the belt loop, up through the end of the belt buckle, and leave about 5 inches of webbing to be stitched into the waistband. Pull the waistband over the top of the webbing and tuck it under about 1/2 inch. This is going to create your waistband, and then you'll just pin it into place and get ready to stitch. And just a word of caution here, that webbing is so slippery, so as you are pinning, checking to make sure that it's even, it is moving all around. So while you are pinning, be sure to use some hot glue if you need to, or use some spray adhesive, and make sure that the sides are turned under because you want that to be a nice crisp edge where that webbing is coming out of the apron. Add a row of top stitching, and when you get to the end, you'll want to make sure that you put 2 rows of stitching where the webbing is coming out of the apron at the waistband. This helps to secure it so that it doesn't come unraveled at some point. And remember, the side seams were already turned under and pressed, and so I just continued that line of stitching all the way to the bottom. I also did another row of top stitching on the bottom edge of the waistband, helping to further secure that webbing in place. And as an afterthought, I decided to add a little bit of the same fabric to the bottom of the apron that I added to the waistband. So I attached right sides together, sewed it, and then put the hem and did a nice little top stitch for decorative reasons. And when I was done, it looked pretty good. But we're not totally done because we still need to create the adjustable waistband. And we're going to use eyelets, and in order to place these eyelets, we're going to separate them about 5/8 of an inch. You can put as many or as few as you need based on your own measurements. But I would highly recommend that you get comfortable using the revolving hole punch first. Do some practice samples on a piece of scrap webbing, know which hole punch size you need to use, and get comfortable using the eyelet pliers kit, because this is the fabric that you've already sewn to the webbing. You do not want to ruin this webbing. And you do need a little bit of hand strength in order to get those holes through there, but it works really, really good. And now we can put the eyelets in with the eyelet pliers. And if you've done your practice, this will be super simple. You put the eyelet in, you want to turn it over and make sure that the eyelet has gone all the way through and that there's no fibers in the way. And then using the pliers with that prong pointing up, that goes in the back, and then just squeeze. Again, you'll need to have a little bit of hand strength here, but if you've done it properly, you've squeezed tight enough, the front should look good, the back should look nice and clean and secure, and that's it. They're evenly spaced and it looks great for your new belt. This is a really fun, inexpensive project to do, and it makes a great gift. And because we use the Arrow Fastener tools, we're able to create this sturdy belt that really supports the tools and the craft supplies that we're going to be carrying with us when we're doing projects. So if you like this project, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to go to arrowfastener.com, check out all of the amazing tools that we use for this project, and subscribe to Thrift Diving, and we will see you next video.